So I'm watching this morning on digital television through a Verizon filter box. That's the service provider in New York. The weather in New York for the body machina, the weather pattern around my body, is broken. So that means the natural laws of physics are broken. The natural laws of physics have been broken for a while. Yesterday I wrote about the plasmatic and the cosmic, because that would be your pressure system. But there was something called a plastic surgeon, which has developed to make people look more pretty, to help the body that's contorting and reshaping and not looking so beautiful as time goes on. These plastic surgeons in New York and other known city locations are using plastic surgery money from soybean, overproduction of soybeans, which goes into the semiconductors and the computer chips, and the overproduction of automobile industry, the overproduction of the heat shield that was produced that they all call crude oil, which really has a coal component to it, and so in chemistry and whatnot. But these plastic surgeons do cosmetic, COSMECT work. Cosmetic surgery they call plastic surgery. Well, at other physician, like real physicians level, not like making somebody pretty that doesn't deserve it and was born ugly, the environment has an astrolog. There's a cosmo woven in series, and then there's the fixing of the body machine. So like in my instance, the leg doesn't swell from here, from this to like this, because it's being put through shock, and has shock absorption problems within the physicality. This morning on the television digital artwork or platform, I do not consider this art at all. This is journal of what's going on elsewhere to bring you artists and supposed to bring you security news of what's going on in the world as in current events, which so far in New York, they have done a horrible job presenting evidence that is happening elsewhere in the world, which I believe was the only reason why they were allowed to do this to begin with. Because of my grandfather's day, he never had a TV, ever. Lou and Linda had a TV. He had a Victrola, an electric record player. Now, this is a real artist.
THÉRE has been transforming seafloors into public art spaces. The sculptor, environmentalist, and underwater photographer's projects explore our relationship to the natural world all around us and underneath of us.
Now, this takes partnership. There's environmental things. This is a real artist with real connections to real important people throughout the globe. He is telling a real story of something really important for not only the environment, but for lawmakers. I was just walking past NYPD today, and I'm like, right, they're the law enforcers of which laws? They're penal laws, which means it's this society so the gang members don't hurt the innocent people through business that they're fighting over with people from elsewhere. But it's that, and so it goes back into PENAL for PENIS. That's walking around. They're not law enforcers of the physics law of the, I have a broken weather pattern. I know who's to blame and who threw the viral code into the weather pattern that changed it, that threw the machine off. Who's enforcing those laws? That's what I want to know. Because if you're like, depending on NYPD, I'm pretty sure they're not up to rationale and of like collecting rationales for irrational purpose to try to fix main rubrics. I don't think that they're up to that. I think that they focus the task at hand, which is just the people around them and the physical that they, and there's a whole separate area that handles the weather.
For our series Pushing the Limits, Elizabeth Palmer met Taylor at his workshop in England to explore the message behind his underwater art.
15 feet down, just off the coast of Grenada, stands a ring of concrete children. Nearby, a lone man sits at a typewriter.
What is this still considered an exhibition or an expose? I'm just curious, because this has a component of journalism in it of exposing something that's just brewing under the surface, is how we explain it, but an expose or exposition. Now, today is September 17th, 2021. I'm Nicole Cattaruzza. I'm star 1978, star 8378.
Welcome to the world's first underwater sculpture park, the creation of British artist Jason Taylor.
Traditional artworks were often quite about the dangers of the
Right.
sea and
Battling the elements
and man versus nature. And so I'm trying to sort of change that in a way and show how incredibly fragile it is, how incredibly finely balanced.
The project began with Taylor casting living Grenadians in plaster after a hurricane had destroyed many of the island's coral reefs. He wondered if underwater sculpture...
Now, it says here, sailing Merriweather. I'm assuming these documented visitors of the exhibition had to have some kind of reference point since they were in admirable territory or sailing territory. So it's sailing Merriweather is where this particular document is from.
Sculptures based on
For
the cast
evidence.
lured divers and tourists away from the reefs that had survived.
Maybe if I created something that was a distraction or a way to attract them to an area that was barren or that had been impacted by the hurricane, then it might...
That would give the reefs that were growing better conditions to grow.
Yes.
The sculptures made of non-polluting concrete kept growing and changing too. Ocean creatures moved in. Plants,
This is absolutely
fish,
beautiful to watch. This is
and
like my
coral
favorite.
are slowly turning them into artificial reefs. That first marine sculpture park has led to others, from Mexico to the Maldives. What goes through your mind?
Sure.
When you swim around
Plain.
your installations and see them fusing with nature?
Initially, they were all just barren stretches of sand underwater with very little marine life. But when I go and see them now, there's turtles, there's soft corals, there's hard corals, there's massive shoals of fish, octopus. It's massive centre of life.
Taylor is much in demand. In his workshop just outside London are casts from more than a dozen marine installations, which have grown more political to reflect his passion for the environment and his worry about humanity's precarious future.
With the TV.
I think this is probably one of the most obvious sculptures that I've made. And it was part of the recent installation.
It's like myself and my dad.
I think it's pretty self-evident
It's the
about
next generation
yes.
carrying us. One of his recent installations sits on Australia's Great Barrier Reef. She's called the Siren, wired to show the ocean warming around the coral. And 20 feet underwater, off the coast of Cyprus,
That would be, I guess,
a new
Alexander.
project has just opened. Human forms in an underwater forest that's already drawing marine creatures. I suppose part of the message as your sculptures get encrusted with living creatures is this ocean is full of life and it will regenerate given the chance.
Definitely, I think there is a sort of a positive narrative that people take away when they visit the works. That I hope that it reminds them that we are nature. We're part of the environment. We're dependent on each other for our ultimate survival. It's this symbiotic relationship.
For CBS Mornings, I'm Elizabeth Palmer in London. Nicely done, Liz Palmer. Don't you think it's very calming? Don't you feel calmer?
So that's under the water. Then, in order to afford this opportunity of the overindulgent ridiculous, they go with...
Love us. It was very easy, very
You've
easy.
got new drug salesmen, right, on TV selling the vaccine.
It doesn't affect me. I would tell people who are afraid of getting the vaccine not to be. It's not worth it because there is no side effect. If at all there is any side effect, in some cases, it's something very minor. It's minor side effects. Like I said earlier on, I personally don't have any side effect. The injection is mild. The needles are very tiny. I took the injection. I didn't feel anything. Just a breeze. Take your vaccination. Millions of people have taken it. New York City is the best city in the whole world taking this vaccination. We are here to conquer.
Visit nyc.gov/vaccine finder or call 877-VAX4 and...
I find that so interesting every time I watch it. We're here to conquer. What exactly are you here to conquer? Although the entire message of that one particular individual is totally fraudulent, it's totally based on a rationale that doesn't work. He cannot say to the public, but he is, on public television, paid advertising, that everybody should go out and get the vaccine, that there's no biological effects that would harm anybody. I mean, he can't say for certain. In fact, it's a bioengineered product, and you're in a broken physics project. How could you possibly go on air and say that? What he wants to do is sell more vaccines, get more people shot, so this way it ups the casino gambling money of making more people sick and just taking your chances. But that goes back to soy products, semiconductors, selling cars. They like to sell all sorts of products. It's a real problem when my physicality is in harm's way and all they care about is themselves and their overindulgence. Now, this is my grandfather. This is the front door to the house, and this is the entryway, and those are the stairs. This was his journalist importance according to World War II and the special war that he was in. He hand sketched parts of Europe, which I call Europe, Europe. This is Albania, Yugoslavia, Serbia, and he hand drew just what he saw on the landscape. This, the gentleman that works at the Met, that worked at the Met, who is now here, that came to look, he said this was the most valuable, he thought, out of the entire collection. So, and that's my grandfather's signature. And then it goes through. So I call this area, it has a sette, S-E-T-T-E. It is asseyez-vous, s'il vous plaît. Asseyez-vous, s'il vous plaît. And then it has the chair that is a rocking chair. It's an antique from when I was first born. And then there is the coat rack with this symbol and coat of arms on it that I'm not sure where from. But it is almost like a mini gallery, and it has a picture of my grandfather dedicated in our private home, like almost a shrine to he, for all that he contributed in quiet memorial that nobody else knows of except for the family as we pass through each day and go out that door and have some form of safe passage because of him. That is all. It exists. It's just not something when you have sacred ancestry and antiquity. It's not something that one speaks of to the normal public, but it does exist. What I am unclear of is other news stories that I heard today. Something is going on, they're saying, in Texas with a almost like a boatload or an airplane load full of people just dumped somewhere in Texas from Haiti, and now they're just crossing bridges and water with stuff all over their, but like their sleeping equipment and a couple of clothes, just moving into Texas today with, I don't know how any of this ever gets situated. Like, is there a bigger problem that nobody is mentioning for the residents of New York? I mean, could Texas enlighten us a little bit more? Could perhaps we get the correct news broadcast for safety purposes on the New York public airwaves? Perhaps? Just curious. Star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza. It's September 17th, 2021. I'm in Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361. And it is Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe, Galaxy is broken.